For joining us on your Sunday afternoon. We'll get to all of our top stories in just a moment, but first, let's get a check of that forecast. Meteorologist John Birchfield. John, it has been quite a beautiful day today so far. Is that going to be sticking around?
Yeah, great weather. Hope you got out and enjoyed the sunshine. It is going to be here all week long with high temperatures climbing to the mid-80s. So we'll call it summer's last hurrah. In the last official week of summer, temperatures climb up into the 80s. And unfortunately, the drought is likely to continue without any rainfall until at least next weekend. Sunny skies right now. Temperatures have dropped back a degree to 79, and due to the east wind, it is a little bit cooler near the Lake Erie shores. I'll show you that temperature difference here on the weather map, ranging from the low 70s in Port Clinton and Sandusky to the upper 70s in the metro and the lower 80s west of town, closer to the Indiana-Ohio state line. Wind's not too bad today, but there is a little bit of a gust. We are seeing 19-mile-an-hour gusts in the metro, 20 in Napoleon, and 15 in Oak Harbor, with those winds coming in out of the east-northeast. Dry and quiet conditions on radar and satellite. We did have some pesky clouds yesterday, but hope you enjoyed the sunshine today. It will be continuing into the start of the week, with those temperatures expected to be up in the 80s. We do have plenty of sunshine around with those temperatures climbing into the 80s, and I am going to preview our next rain chance coming up in just a little bit. Michael?
All right, John, thank you. Just into the newsroom, a man is in critical condition after a shooting in East Toledo this afternoon. It happened just before 3:30 at the Weiler Homes Apartments on Leach Avenue. Police say someone called 911 from the Rainbow Market across the street. Right now, there's no word on a suspect, and the investigation is still ongoing. A large memorial for political activist Charlie Kirk will take place next Sunday. As preparations continue, investigators are working with the roommate of Kirk's alleged assassin to learn more about the circumstances surrounding Kirk's death. CBS News has the latest in Utah.
Charlie Kirk's followers continue to mourn the loss of the conservative activist 4 days after his assassination. On Sunday's Face the Nation, House Speaker Mike Johnson paid tribute to Kirk.
There's a mixture of, anger and sadness and fear, frankly, on the part of a lot of people. It cast a large shadow across the country and the nation's capital. But what I do know, Major, is that my good friend Charlie would not want any of us to be consumed by despair. He would want us to go forward boldly. That was his message.
Johnson said Kirk's death is a time for people to put aside political differences.
Calling people Nazis and fascists is not helpful. I'm heartened to know, Major, and to see that many of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle are stepping up and saying that and addressing it. I think this could be a turning point, frankly, to use Charlie's term, for the country.
CBS News has learned the Trump administration is sending a $58 million request to Congress to increase security for members of the executive and judicial branches in light of the assassination. Also on Face the Nation, Senator Lankford spoke of ongoing threats to Congress at a politically divisive time.
There have been 14,000 threats against members of Congress just this calendar year. This is not new, but it continues to be able to rise.
Authorities continue to investigate the circumstances surrounding Charlie Kirk's killing, and they're talking to the alleged shooter, Tyler Robinson's roommate, who they say is cooperating. Turning Point USA, the organization Kirk founded, will host a memorial next Sunday at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. President Trump said he plans to attend Kirk's funeral. Carter Evans, CBS News, Orem, Utah.
State Farm Stadium in Arizona, where Kirk's memorial will take place, can seat more than 60,000 people. Turning Point USA has invited the public to celebrate Kirk's life and legacy. Kirk's alleged assassin is slated to appear in court this week. And Toledo police are investigating a shooting in West Toledo. It happened at a home on Eleanor Avenue near Lewis last night around 11:30. Toledo police say one man was shot in the lower body. We're told his injuries are believed to be non-life-threatening. Officers say shell casings were found inside the home, but they don't know how many shots were fired. One person was taken in for questioning. It's not clear if any charges have been filed. An update to a story we told you about earlier this summer. A 38-year-old man shot in his North Toledo home has died. Hassan Cummings, a person with special needs, died on August 23rd. He was shot back on July 30th at his home on Homer Avenue. 19-year-old Darius Horton is charged in the case. According to court documents, Horton shot Cummings in the stomach, then took off, and a warrant was issued for his arrest. However, Cummings' father, Danny Riley, says Horton didn't actually shoot Cummings. Rather, he brought a gun into the home and Cummings found it and accidentally shot himself. Riley calls the whole thing, quote, a tragic example of lack of gun safety.
You say day by day. This is minute by minute, trying to cope with it. So I try not to think about Darius. I try not to think about the whole thing, and that works sometimes for a little while. It's a little narrow escape.
Toledo police say they plan to meet with the prosecutor's office soon to determine if Horton's felonious assault charge should be elevated. WTOL 11 spoke to Horton's mother, who says he plans on turning himself in. Tonight, we're highlighting a piece of local sports history from almost 40 years ago. In 1986, Caldwell High School's cross-country team swept the National Cross Country Championship, inspiring teams right here in Northwest Ohio with their resilience and teamwork. Dominique O'Neill joins us in studio now. Dominique, what can you tell us about this team and what made them so special?
Well, Michael, it will be 40 years, almost 40 years this spring when the team finishes historic season with a perfect 137-0 record at the Ohio High School State Boys Cross Country State Meet. Their win was so historic, they set two records that still stand today. The lowest point total was 26 points and the largest margin of victory with 85 points. Former Seneca East high school coach Ron Martin, who led the team, recently reflected on the achievement during the Stars, Stripes, and Lights Pride in School, Community, and Country event at Seneca East.
My goal with writing this book is that I want to right the wrongs that happen in our sport, because we are a part of the greatest sport that Ohio has to offer, and that's cross country.
Tonight, we hear more about the small-town cross-country team from Marietta who beat the odds, some of the valuable lessons they learned along the way. Reporting in studio, Dominique O'Neill, WTOL 11.
For 45 years now, historic St. Pat's Church in downtown Toledo has celebrated a mass to thank local firefighters and first responders. A lightning strike hit the church's steeple, setting it on fire. The strike burned roughly 2/3 of the steeple, taking 25 years to replace. Drums and bagpipes filled the church, as well as active and retired firefighters. The mass grew out of a way for the parish to thank the Toledo firefighters who responded to the blaze. The firefighters saved the church, although there was severe water damage inside.
Which is why now our pews are all very light oak instead of the dark color they used to be, because we had to strip them and clean them. But you put up with that. Thank God we have them. Thank God we have the church. Thank God we had the firefighters, and thank God we've got them today. All these brave men and women who I hear right around the corner from Fives.
Reverend Vasco says the Mass also commemorates the tragic events of 9/11 to remember the thousands of people that died, especially the first responders, so that it doesn't fade into history and just become another day. 28 authors met their current readers and hope to attract some new ones in the Parking Lot Party and Author Fair in Perrysburg today. Many genres were celebrated, including children's books, horror, science fiction, regional nonfiction, and everything in between. Proceeds will go for funding the 4th annual Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival, sponsored by Gathering Volumes. Organizers say more readers come out each year to meet their favorite local and regional authors.
It's awesome for people to come in and meet, you might have an author here who you didn't know you had a book of theirs. So even if you're not in the market to purchase, come by and meet some new, literary friends.
Yeah, we do have those. That looks like one.
Former WTOL 11 News Director Anthony Knops was on hand selling his 7th book, The No Fail Mission. There was live music and free homebrew samples from Glass City Mashers as well. Coming up, farmers on the East Coast faced a tough growing season. Stay tuned to see how farmers in Vermont made it through that period.
And we've been going on with a drought here at home. It's going to be a very warm end of the summer season with temperatures peaking out in the upper 80s, but the start of fall is going to be cooler. Any rain chances in sight, I'll let you know coming up next. Welcome back in. Keep the shorts and the sunglasses handy. It is going to be a very mild work week and end of the summer season. Temperatures climb to the mid to possibly even the upper 80s by Thursday. And this is the last official week of summer before autumn begins next Monday. So what about rain chances? It is looking dry until at least next weekend with a solid 5+ days of sunshine and dry weather. Right now, crystal clear skies, 79 degrees, and that east wind has made it just a touch cooler near the lakeshore. Hope you're soaking up the sun because sunsets are getting earlier and earlier. We are now at 7:44 p.m. and that means we are losing 2 minutes and 45 seconds a day. By the end of September, sunset time only at 7:16 p.m. Bus stop forecast featuring plenty of sunshine out the door. Temperatures not that chilly. We're only going to be at 60 degrees in the morning, and those afternoon highs expected to top out right around the 80-degree mark. After school sports practices and activities going to be nice and mild with lots of sunshine. Now, due to the winds coming in out of the east, it has been a little cooler in Port Clinton and Sandusky. Even Oak Harbor and Fremont feeling that lake breeze. The metro has dropped down to the upper 70s and still holding on to the 80s south and west of Toledo. Winds are gusting up to about 20 miles an hour, so not blustery by any means, but definitely a noticeable breeze. Tomorrow, wind direction going to be very much the same. Now, drought monitor continues to show moderate drought across the region in that brown shaded area, and we are not likely to get any rainfall before the next drought monitor is issued Thursday. So stay tuned to WTOL 11 for latest on how the drought continues to grow. September rainfall is a paltry 0.6 inches of rain, and our normal amount through today's date, 1.38. So we are less than half where we should be for the month of September. The dry weather continues into Monday, mostly sunny with light east winds, 82 degrees. Temperatures in the morning going to be in the upper 50s, and those afternoon highs expected to top out in the lower 80s. Once again, near the lakeshore, a little cooler, and then west of town could even creep up into the mid 80s in Defiance and Putnam counties, where it will be a little bit warmer. Temperatures climbing to the mid 80s Tuesday and Wednesday, and I expect Thursday to be the warmest day of the forecast with a summer feel and highs at 88 degrees, a very warm above average week of weather, and also a dry one without any rainfall for the work week. Weather impacts include that growing drought, sunny and dry weather ahead. There is the possibility for some showers next weekend, and a pattern change is going to usher in a cooler start to the fall season. You are going to see those scattered showers possible next weekend. That cold front drops us back to the 70s, and it is going to be feeling a bit more like fall as we officially kick off the autumn season. Michael?
All right, thanks, John. And speaking of autumn, pumpkin season's here, but it wasn't all smooth growing. Wet fields and drought made planting tough for some farms on the East Coast. CNN has more.
So this is our cute little pumpkin house.
The pumpkin farming season goes back to May and June when the seeds were planted. For some farms, including Paul Mazza's in Essex Junction, wet soil made it hard.
The wet weather this spring made it actually really hard to get a lot of planting done because most fields were so wet you couldn't get your tractor into them. So pumpkins went in a little bit later than we had preferred, but they still seem to be arriving on time and in good quality. So thankfully it came around.
They were worried about the drought, but while their crops recovered, other farms across the state weren't so lucky.
People don't have a crop of pumpkins or squash because of things that happened in May and June. and then we went into a drought, so compounding effects of that. And then other people I've talked to have, they have a bumper crop of good quality pumpkins.
One of those farms having a bumper crop year, Whitcomb Farm at their new location in Essex Junction. They attribute their abundant year to their land, a former field of grass.
It's one of the best crops we've had in the 23 years. We thought the drought there might have hurt us, but I think they say once public pumpkin plants are established and they've kind of pollinated, we've got some what they call virgin pumpkin land here.
Whitcomb says their new farm is less flood prone. It opens to the public next Saturday, the 20th. At Paul Mazza's, they have a new pumpkin house for visitors of all ages to enjoy.
farming's a tough business.
It is,
There's so many factors that are outside of your control, and sometimes the weather just can totally destroy a planting season. Or the harvest as well. So this year, locally, we have had the drought lately. Thankfully, the summer was pretty good as far as getting rainfall, but with those hit or miss pop-ups, there's some farmers that are like, yeah, we got a lot of rain this summer, and there's others that are saying the opposite. We didn't really get enough of it, and those two farms could be just 20 minutes down the road from each other. One of them got a good amount of rain, one of them not a whole lot. But with the drought lately, the growing season's effectively over. Hopefully the harvest ends up being pretty fruitful this year. Well, time will tell, but definitely looking dry out there.
Yeah, and fingers crossed for the farmers. And what this really is? It's interesting because, so many people go to the pumpkin farm, they carve it up, but they don't really know the whole journey getting there.
Yeah, there's a lot of behind the scenes that goes into that pumpkin.
Absolutely, definitely insightful. Well, speaking of pumpkins, we got our Chase Bachman here, our very own pumpkin. Chase?
I had a feeling you were going to call me a pumpkin or something of the like. Anyway, when we return, it's week 2 of the NFL season. Lions taking on the Bears, Browns taking on the Ravens, plus the final home game for the Mud Hens season. Got those stories and more coming up next in sports. Sports brought to you by Jim White Honda. Welcome back. It's week 2 of the NFL season. We've got the Lions and Browns playing divisional rivals again. Let's start with Detroit. Lions back at Ford Field for their first home game of the regular season, taking on their divisional rival, the Chicago Bears, and former offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, now the head coach of the Bears. Fans wondered if Detroit could have the same kind of offense without Johnson, but it looks like that was no problem this week. The Lions hung 52 on Chicago. Detroit had over 500 yards of offense, more than 300 of it through the air. Jared Goff completed 23 of 28 passes and finished with a passer rating of 156. That's about as high as that goes in that metric. The Lions get a much-needed first win of the regular season. Meanwhile, for the Browns, they went on the road this week to take on the Ravens. Unlike the Lions, Cleveland did not pick up a win in their second week. They fall to Baltimore 41-17. The Browns are now 0-2 to start the season. They're back home next week to host Micah Parsons and the Packers. And down in Miami, the Tigers in action, taking on the Marlins. Detroit got the win over Miami 2-0 and are now 85-65 on the season. The Tigers are still in second place in the American League, which would make them the 2 seed if the postseason started today. There are just 12 games left in the Major League Baseball season. And in Cleveland, the Guardians taking on the White Sox. Cleveland got the win over Chicago 3-2. That improves their record to 78-71 overall. They are back in second place in the American League Central, but if the playoffs started today, they would be on the outside looking in. They are not technically eliminated yet, but with 12 games left in the regular season, as we said, they are 3.5 back of the AL wildcard spot, and they take on the Tigers in 6 of their final 12 games. And in AAA baseball, the Mud Hens had their final home series of the season, and today was the final game. Toledo got the win over Louisville 5-4, so they split the series with the Bats. The Hens go on the road to Iowa to finish the year. And like the Guardians, the team is not technically eliminated from the postseason, but the Hens would need to win all of their games in this next final series and get a bunch of help from some other team losses in order to qualify. I caught up with manager Gabe Alvarez after today's game. He said regardless of what happens, it's been a good 2025 season.
Asked for anything better. Wanted to win in front of the home folks. Being the last home game here. Can't say enough about the fans. They supported us all year. They made us go. And it was a lot of fun.
And finally, a new episode of Chasing the Game is dropping soon. I catch up with Springfield head football coach Sam Arredondo. You can watch the full episode this week on WTOL 11+, which you can download for free on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. You can also watch and listen to the full episodes on YouTube and Spotify. For now, that's all for sports. We'll be right back.
Welcome back in. Some communities, especially in the Midwest, are trying to find ways to control the geese population. Well, one city in Illinois is using a new tool to help. CNN has the story.
For anyone who's walked along Ben Butterworth Parkway, you've likely had to dodge both geese and what they leave behind. Moline Parks and Recreation says it's time for a cleaner solution. Enter the Goosenator, a remote-controlled, brightly painted device created with Cornell University research.
Every 7 years, geese double their herd. After having conversations, we thought that this was the best method to help, control the geese population.
The department says it's not about harming the birds, but about keeping public spaces safe and enjoyable for